actually, because we have more games to talk about, let's pivot into Overwatch. Overwatch is also taking Overwatch is also taking part in the Esports World Cup, and it's not going to kick off until the 22nd, 23rd of this month already, but we have some big news. We already did our preview of the teams and the group stages and the round robins, what we're expecting, but today there was a big patch, and it has a big impact on what's yet to come, and we're going to switch over into that and give our quick thoughts and opinions, our analysis on this. And flat out, we knew coming into this was going to be very tank focused. All right, they were addressing concerns and sentiments about tank survivability, and they're trying to do a little touch and go because they don't want tanks to be these super duper people running around controlling the field, but at the same time, when tanks just get looked at, they're dying super quick, which is a little bit concerning. So we're going to go through some of these changes, which are mostly tank focused, and then move on from there. So first and foremost here, the role passive for tanks, it's getting ultimate generation reduction from 30% to 40%, meaning the biggest characters on the field in Overwatch 2, they added this passive to them so that because it was the one thing that everyone targeted from high ranks to low ranks, more so low ranks. But now they're reducing the ult charge and making it less beneficial to just single target that tank the entire game, 40%. I don't think that has a huge impact, but I think it's going to be felt for sure. And then knockback resistance, I don't know why they keep bouncing this around, but I think this one makes a little bit more sense to make Lucio boops and Wrecking Ball boops kind of bounce around. Just to wrap this up before I get your thoughts on this, Nick, the developer comments here: dealing damage to tank heroes will be slightly less rewarding with the increased reduction of ult generation and will help to balance out the increased healing that may receive when the change of damage to the passive role. Excuse me. And then while knockback resistance was generally useful for tank heroes and their emphasis on positioning, it was also reaching a point where it was difficult for developed players of knockback abilities were doing anything. So this is a pretty big one overall, Nick, as far as it impacts every single tank, and then it actually impacts some of the other non-tank characters that have boops. Any sort of initial feelings on that one and vibes? Have you had some chances to play recently?
Yeah, of course I have, man. Of course, like prepping for this, I've played your cancerous game. I've played Overwatch for a little bit. As a tank, just so we're clear, I do enjoy the tank role. Currently at the moment, I'm sure I'm not high enough ranked, but I'm sure a high ranked player has already said this somewhere. Being a tank sucks in this game currently, which is why they're trying to address this sort of thing. I don't know, like, it makes sense with the ultimate generation thing, right? The knockback resistance, like, that also makes sense, but I'll be honest with you, like, there should probably be limited to tanks should be the ones probably smacking people around like that, unless there's like a Lucio boop is kind of stupid. Like, I know people like it, but like for the character itself, it's kind of stupid. Like, it's pretty still like, yeah, hey man, I played some music. Get out of here. It's pretty stupid, like, not design. It's a cool character, it's cool design. Flavor for his character is pretty stupid. It doesn't really have anything to do with his like character. It's just a boop and you say it sound, but you know.
Well, I mean,
why doesn't he use that sort of thing anywhere else?
Even his primary fire is supposed to be sound waves that he's focusing. But either way, like, there's complaints about Lucio just being in the meta and being a must pick as a support, and you're starting to see that sort of kind of roll back. But like, there's a lot of reasons why that's the case too. He offers speed boost, a great utility for his team, but then his mobility and his ability to position quickly, and I don't want to say accurate, but you see that high skill ceiling for some of these players that it becomes such a must pick in the Overwatch League previously, and now it's like a pretty heavy pick, and like that's where it's like, okay, I could see how then that knockback, that might be the weakest part of his kit potentially, or like the one thing that you might want to like remove. Yes, you'll get less Reddit use Lucios knocking people off the edge into canyons and whatnot, but like that might be a fair like little idea you might be cooking on that one, where it's like, hey, what if we remove the boop from him, kind of leave boops, because it might be oversaturating the whole market for it. And like, we're starting to see the same complaints. We're starting to see the same complaints about Venture with her boops too, but go ahead.
Hey,
Billy here. Wanted to take a quick minute to let you know a few different things. If you enjoyed the video so far, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps us out and it tells the algorithm to share it with more people. You can find the Esports Meta live every week on Twitch and YouTube. It's where we film the podcast or hang out, play games, and chat. If social media is more your vibe, check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, or Twitter if you use Threads. Does anybody use Threads? This is a video game community that's excited to talk about esports, so jump into the conversation. Of course, you can find more videos like this here on YouTube. Just hit that subscribe button right there or there. Thanks for watching, and let's get back to the show.
Reinhardt, I say it all the time, dude. Reinhardt charge. Like, why does everybody get more flavor than this guy? Like, he literally charges at people, and people don't even get thrown out of the way for the most part. Like, if you're in the front, you get grabbed and taken. Everybody else, it's literally like a fly flew past you. Oh my God! Oh, it's Reinhardt. Jesus Christ, is he around? Oh, he went that way, I think.
But in that way too,
I missed again. Like,
yeah, Reinhardt gets hyper focused in that, so he can't really even charge. You only have the really hyper vigilant W key and warriors that are playing Reinhardt that way.
He's like a linebacker. He's like a linebacker. Like, if you don't get out of the way of the linebacker, you will be injured and moved away from that linebacker because of that linebacker's mass. And so I think, like, Reinhardt in general, not having like a get the fuck out of here on his charge, but Lucio having like a boop is like super weird for like the whole knockback thing.
Well,
for like,
Mauga.
Like, why isn't the tank doing it?
Yeah, Mauga has a similar, similar charge. It's more mobile, more flexible. He bends it more. He could stop it and slam on somebody and knock them down. And then he boops people back a bit more. We'll go into that in a little bit second. But no, you're right. Even against another tank, his charge is like just less than. And that's another thing, right? He's a classic Overwatch 1 character. Everybody loves Reinhardt metas. And then we see how it stands up to like modern, maybe power creep or just design creep. But either way, I think that's what they're trying to address a little bit here. And it does seem to be somewhat small changes with relatively big impact. And let's get into it. If you're okay to move on into the actual character specific stuff.
Well, yeah, we can get into the character specific stuff, but I am like thinking about this. Like, one of the thoughts that I'm having before we go into it is, how much does this affect the top 500 players right now? Because this game is really like in the dumps for tanks on the top 500 players. In Europe, platinum players are on the top 500 because they increased the amount of games, the 50, to be in top 500. And like over in Europe and in America. So we have like diamonds in America that are top 500, and we have platinums in Europe that are top 500 tanks right now. So like top players do not want to play this role at the moment.
Yeah,
for multiple
you're
reasons,
seeing a lot of fatigue with the tank role, and I think that's what a lot of this patch is trying to address. I don't think it's just the top. I think when you get to like lower ranks and the metal ranks especially, they're not going to be as concerned of what's meta, what you have to play and forced to play in comp. They're going to just play the things they find fun, and then maybe try to imitate, because that is something that happens. Like, there is some imitation about how it should work, but it's like having a 9-year-old drive a Lamborghini. They're not going to know how to double clutch or granny shift out of that. But, you know.
Oh, yeah, true. They're not top 500 players, but because they've reached the 50 game mark, they get put on the top 500 players. And
well, I think that
top players are doing placements and leaving. Like, is what they're doing.
And I think that part too, I think it's like just a volume of how many players are going in actively playing tank. So where you end up with games and queues where you're, but they have done a better job. It has been tightened up, but you're right. It's still sort of happening and it still doesn't feel good. And I think that's what a lot of this patch is trying to address, the feeling of how it is to play a tank. Because you can be fine and you can run the match, but then a lot of times you just get deleted. Everyone looks at you and deleted. They throw all your stuff at you, and that brings up the 5v5 versus 6v6 kind of conversation. I think we're past that point. We are going to be a solo tank game. They still need to make those corrections to help it be a solo tank game so that you don't have everybody throwing all their cooldowns at that one dude. But anyway, individual characters here. Let's kind of like fly through this here, Nick. So if you have anything, stop here. If anybody out there in chat land has a comment comment or a thought, be sure to drop it into the chat. Be sure to hashtag us, tweet us, threads us if you're using threads right now, because I know I am. But, all this stuff, make sure you mention it. We want to talk with you guys. Leave in the comments. We'll respond. We're happy to have this discussion. We want to see what you guys think. But Nick, like I said, stop me if you have a pressing matter or thought. Diva, the defense matrix is getting increased by 0.5 second, 0.5 seconds, and the micro missile explosion damage, a little bit more splash damage, going from 4 to 5.5. So that is a pretty big damage burst window there, going from 125 to 150. And I think that's going to help her address some of the more squishies, maybe secure kills a little faster, maybe remove armor a little bit quicker from like Winston or something. But the comment here is, The comment here is the maximum duration of defense matrix is increased by 0.5 second by reducing the rate at which the resource meter drains when in use. So it won't take longer to regenerate. The increased damage of micro missiles will help your ability feel more relatively impactful against larger health pools. So, okay, there you go. I think that's a pretty straightforward one. Diva's been pretty, decent, highly mobile but, having her weakness against Winston, because Winston's been really strong, and that armor change really made a difference. Actually, let me go back real quick. Did we miss something? There it is. I missed this one. I apologize, but another general hero update, because it just reminded me, they changed armor again. Armor flat damage reduction went from 5 to 10. So if I shoot one bullet, it's going to remove 10 damage per bullet. I think there is a maximum damage that it can do. I think it's 50% of. So I think Tracer's bullets are like, I think it was something like 8 damage, 7 or 8 damage a pellet. I think you can only bring it down to like 3 or 4 per pellet now. Either way, not really a big difference for her, but it's going to impact some other ones. And then enemy health bars are going to be displayed at low health threshold. The comment here is armor changes have had a positive impact, which they had at the beginning of last season. And damage types are slowed down by the armor. So like they're doing a good job at slowing down damage that's weak against armor, making armor actually useful. And then they're increasing that damage to further widen the pools of heroes that it's going to impact there. So that's going to be a little bit more harsh on the Reapers and the, what's it called? The Torbjorns, the multiple pellet kind of dudes for those bigger armored up tanks. That one's a kind of big one, Nick. Any initial thoughts, like while I get back down to the characters?
Honestly, that math degree that you have to have for part of this game for no reason is like, it's pretty bad. Like I say that, like, how much armor does Ryan have?
Off the top of my head, I'm not too sure, but we can take a look and find it real quick. So.
We don't need to take a look. I just mean that's like a stat I shouldn't have to worry about. Like that shouldn't. It should just be a little bit more clear and concise with how your damage gets dealt and like everything that.
When they swapped over to Overwatch 2, they did attempt to do that exactly, and it was a flat percentage. If you had armor, it reduced it by 25%, I believe. So if your bullet did 100 damage, it only did 75 damage if their armor existed, if it damaged armor. They did that last change where they reduced critical damage to tanks and they changed the armor to this system, and they found, I guess here now they're upping the armor part rather than being 5 damage to bring it to 10 damage. So I don't disagree with you that the breakpoints get a little bit tricky to follow and then keep track of and what's going to work and not. But I think that's also some of the excitement of discovery and playtesting what works and what doesn't, what feels good, what doesn't. And yeah, man, like,
it just gets harder to understand for low damage heroes.
Well,
you know what I mean? So like the less damage you deal.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
One is like a lot off of 5. You know, like, you know what I mean? So like if you're only dealing like 5 damage and it's 25% damage reduction
on headshots, yeah.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, I'm not just as an example,
okay,
you know?
Yeah.
So like the less damage you do, it's harder for you to understand how much damage you're doing. Rather than like if you deal 100 damage, you like know, all right, I deal 100 with a headshot. oh, he gets reduced armor, 25%, 70 damage or so. Like, it's a lot easier. But when you're talking about like low damage heroes, which are usually like certain supports and tanks, right? It gets harder for them to understand how much damage they can do, which is really hard for certain people to really like play the game and understand that
so
part.
At that point too, that's where, you know, the a leveling up of skill and knowledge base happens. But it kind of, I've always approached it and seen people talk about it, how they talk about card games. Here's the combo. Here's the ABC to make this happen. And like, there's simple ones that don't feel good to play against, like Roadhog hook combo, that one hit shot combo over the lifespan of that character. I think that, you know, this is like 150 and then this is 75 and that takes out 225 characters. Like, you know, hypothetically just saying like that, you know, that becomes a simple calculation to make. And then, yeah, when you're adding this stuff, it becomes a trickier calculation. But I do feel like as you level up from plat to diamond, etc., masters, you're starting to get a good sense of that stuff. And you start looking at it like a card game combo stuff.
But I'm plat. And I don't know. Like, it's what I'm saying. Like, and I play tank and support. So like, that's a little bit like personal experience. Like I understand what you're saying. Like the more experience and the more knowledge you have, the more you'll have a feel for it, right? You won't even necessarily have to like understand exactly how much damage you do. You will have a feel for it, like I do in like League, where I'm like, oh, I know exactly how much damage I can do.
Like you'll know
to
that
this guy's health bar.
You'll know that three headshots will take out this character, kind of thing, right? If you're Cassidy, you're just like dink, 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 and then they're dead, kind of thing. But you only need 2 against a tracer or something, right? Like you start getting a feel, you start learning even like an indirect version of that. But yeah, that's definitely when these changes happen. There's confusion and then misunderstanding. Hey, but that's what we're here for, right? We're here to clear up that. We're here to focus on the expertise, break through all the noise, try to get good takes. You know, we want to be cooking here. We don't want to be burning that food. So
Get got me, you know? Get got me. Do your job.
All right, so moving on into Doomfist. Overhealth gain per target hit increased from 35 to 40, so an extra 5 per target hit, and the delay before it starts to decay is from 1 second to 3 seconds. So both seems to be buffs. And the comments here: survivability comes through his mobility, but this boost to his passive overhealth generation will enable him to stay in the fight longer before he has to disengage, especially when he hits more targets. So that's like an interesting thought. Doom can kind of be a menace, and when they turn the knobs on him, those skilled Doomfists, they're high flying, they're coming off the top rope, and they're just running the server for sure. He's definitely one of those tanks, especially with the changes in Overwatch 2, that can really just do that. I don't think this is going to be a drastic change, but we'll see what happens if it becomes a Doom dive meta again on that one. But I kind of like where that's at. It'll be interesting to kind of see how it develops, if that extra health really matters for him to be in the fight or not. Because Dooms are going to doom. Next up is Junker Queen. Overhealth increased from 150 to 175. And then wound damage self-healing multiplier increased from 2 to 2.5. So the developer comment here is Junker Queen is relatively small and fast for a tank hero. She's a lot of fun to play, and I think a lot of people, especially lower, have a really hard time hitting her. So like as a tank, she kind of doesn't fit the mold of being that big character that's huge hitbox in front of you that, you know, people just focus. So with that, they say commanding shout doesn't need a ton of bonus health to be effective, and the increased wound healing. So when you put a bleed on, you get more healing for that bleed, is going to help her stay in the fight and manage her abilities. So it's less have to do something only on commanding shout or not. Nick, real quick, which tanks are you liking when you're playing? Which ones are you focusing on, etc.? Because I want to like stop and get your thoughts on that when we do hit their patch note parts.
Well, so I can't really play, like I like playing Reinhardt, but I can't play Reinhardt because Reinhardt's squared, because Blizzard sucks at doing this sometimes.
Rectangle man.
Mauga. Bro, he's like, this is like the worst part about Blizzard is sometimes they make something that's incredibly well designed. Like Reinhardt is pretty well designed overall. And then what they do is they just make a better version of the thing that that is nicely designed. And so like you take Reinhardt and you get Mauga. Like, so Mauga is one. I don't play Junker Queen right now. I'm not a Doomfist fan. I like Diva. I like
Okay.
I like Winston, Roadhog. Orisa, I do not like in Overwatch 2. I don't like her.
She's very hit or
She
miss.
feels
She's like super overpowered, and they just nerfed her. She's still like there, but like it's really just ineffective. She's another one of those characters where basically like Lucio, she could do everything as far as the tank goes. She cycles through her abilities. She's able to be super defensive, and then she can poke from far away. She can like run up on somebody. So like that's been a big complaint where it's like just an Orisa meta generally speaking, but you know, recently they have knocked
That's
her
usually
down.
a problem with like the kit, right?
Yeah, it's a kit problem.
Like whenever that's a problem where you're just buffing or something like, and I mean that's the way she feels. Is she doesn't feel like Orisa, but it probably feels for Blizzard and the people designing this game. It's probably exactly how they originally envisioned Orisa is like the way she plays now, but it doesn't feel like Orisa for me. So like I don't really play her. Ramatra is not a champion that I've picked up yet.
Real quickly too. With Orisa, that's a interesting one because I don't think it was what was intended. I think it's quite the opposite. They had to just make something do because at the end of Overwatch 1, I think Orisa really enabled the double shield meta where it was just bunker, sit there, double shield, and it's usually a Sigma Orisa that just like sat from afar, super heavy poke, BAP would drop window from the other side of the map. So like they would just like cycle through all the different cooldowns, and it was like really beginning to be the next goats where it's like nothing dies and it's so hard to dislodge basically. So her halt, her little grab pull, as well as her shield got removed for Overwatch 2, and that was a primary reason for that. So that might be why you don't feel like Orisa feels like Orisa. I'm skeptical about it.
She'd feel like somebody else.
I don't think we need to bring back the shield part, but I don't think the halt thing is too bad. But either way, you know, they try to change her into more of a brawl tank, a rush down tank. And it's, you know, same with Malga. Malga's a very big rush down tank because they're having definite issues with that. But yeah, you mentioned rush down tanks. You were talking about Ramatra real quick, and you haven't had a chance to pick him up.
Yeah, I haven't tried Ramatra yet. But like I've seen it, and it's just like it's not something I'm really willing to like invest a lot in because I can't really play like ranked, and I usually only play ranked. Like I don't really play quick play. I don't like the experience of like losing players and then having randoms join me. So like I'm always playing ranked. So I don't feel like it's fair for me to try to pick up like a new tank in ranked when I haven't like played them. Mm-hmm. So I haven't been doing that, but I really do enjoy Sigma. I think Sigma's also got like a great design, and I would definitely say watch out for Sigma 2 because they like doing that. Like they like doing that. And I like Winston.
Give it a couple seasons and we'll have Sigma 2. But yeah, let's get into those changes on those characters and tap in with your experience and seeing how that might play out differently. So talking about, you know, rush down characters, we're going into Malga. Malga's been a highly contested character recently. He's been fairly meta. He like one of the trinity of the strong tanks right now in Counterwatch. And you're seeing it being played across the board, more so at high levels for that counter pick. But they haven't quite figured out what they want to do with him, and I think they're still kind of testing some things where they want to place the power in his kit. So here, the knockback damage increased from his charge goes from 25 to 30. And the Goomba Stomp damage has increased 15 points from 60 to 75, giving him a better Reinhardt situation. You do damage as you roll by. And then if you critical hit them, land on their heads, you stun them, and you do an extra 25 damage. So they're trying to incentivize him charging squishies or charging people out of position to all in on them and just, you know, get that quick advantage. Otherwise, this cardiac overdrive, I've pre-read this, they're nerfing it. Duration goes from 5 seconds down to 3 seconds. This was his leech life. His lifesteal then increases from 60% from what it was up to 100%, which might arguably be a huge buff. It might make a huge section of people pissed. And then the changing damage reduction of the cooldown from 30% to 40%, and now allies only get half of what they would get before. They used to get the full 60%, and now they're getting only 50% lifesteal on their damage while in that aura. Playing Malga a little bit there, Nick. What do you think, man? These are some pretty big changes as far as how they want to change the power. They're reducing the cooldown length, but then increasing the potency here. Is it going to have any difference in what Malga does?
It probably has like going to have like unique scenarios where it will be a net loss, but on average, this is probably a net buff just in general. Because on average, most of the time, in most scenarios, in like probably like high level play, the amount of damage that you do in the 3 seconds is probably where like the average was, right? So like the amount of damage that people were doing was probably from like 2, 3, and 4 seconds, and so they cut the 4 and the 5 off because they didn't need the 5, and just increase the amount of health that you do. So if you do miss that fourth, the 4th second that they're cutting off of it, you're still getting extra lifesteal off of the first 2, the 2 and the 3. So it probably net positive, like overall. And like obviously damage reduction increased to 30 to 40%. Like I hate his overrun move. I think that's like Reinhardt's move. Like what does it feel? What it feels like? Like the guy with the big hammer and the shield doesn't get anything, and like this guy just runs in. But no, like I like him, but I like him because like he just feels like a stronger version of Reinhardt on a regular basis. Yeah, and I'm sure that's exactly how everybody's felt about him since he's come out. Right?
You want Ryan to close the gap, but it's so hard for Ryan to close the gap. The tools of the shield and the charge really kind of leave him open and like unable to. So, we might be a little bit surprised, hopeful for those changes. But with this in Malga right now, it seems like, they want you to punish squishies. You're going to do a little bit more damage, punish people out of position. But the defensive cooldown, they want you to be more selective. It's going to be more potent. And it might be like a net neutral sort of game. I do also think it might be a better buff overall, but like you have to be smarter about when you use it. You can't just run in and just auto spam it. I don't know if that's going to be enough to change how Malgas play, because a lot of times you're just looking for the lifesteal on the burns, on the crits, and you're just shooting the big targets. You're shooting whatever you can. So like, why go for the squishy when you can go for the bigger target when it's easier? So I think there's still, this may or may not incentivize people. It may or may not make a big difference in that change of strategy. And I think that's a big thing everyone's looking for and looking at, because Malga, historically, people are complaining about how he plays in that way. So into another character that people historically complain about how they play is Orisa. Orisa here, fortified duration went from 3.5 to 4 seconds, a small buff. And the developers basically saying that when they nerfed her last patch, she hasn't been performing as well, which is kind of what they want. But now, since every other tank is being buffed, they have the room to also then bring back Fortify it for a little bit longer, which might smooth out her play a little bit, which it teeter-totters a little bit. I don't think we need to talk about that too much, though. And then let's move into Ramattra. Nemesis form. The bonus armor is increased from 225 to 300. That's a pretty large number when you want to go into your punch man. I wonder if that also applies to the ultimate. I think naturally it does. But then pummel, the punching move and damage, the damage is being increased from 60 to 65. And the dev comment here is that the adjustment is notable because it reduces the number of punches required to knock out a 250 health. So this might just be a quality of life change from season 9 when they increased everybody's health, so that Ramattra actually feels like more than a block bot. You can then pounce on people, do the whole Yugi, you fall into my trap card, haha, and then I'm the one you're trapped in here with kind of thing.
I mean, I don't play Ramattra, right? So like, to me, that sentence reads cool. Instead of having 5, it takes 4.
Yeah. That's kind of it. That seems to be what it is. And I think it was a necessary thing, because when they changed projectile hitboxes as well as everybody's health pool, he felt limp. He felt like he didn't really
He's probably still gonna
do anything.
Limp.
That 4 punches. And like a lot.
He's going to box somebody in the middle of a shooter match. Like he's just waiting. Like, thank God I don't have to throw one more. And he just throwing the 4th one. Like I'm only like. See, it seems silly. It probably less effective than people think.
Right? It might be like
this is a different game.
It might be a half a second difference if you are trying to secure a kill. But truth be told, you're not aggressively securing a kill unless somebody gets out of position and you're going to punish them. Like you're just going to run up on them with the big arms, really. And like otherwise you're just block botting. You're just crossing up and you're, I think it's an 70% damage reduction for that. Anyway, I do feel like it's not going to really change much, but I think it is going to allow him to then clean up quicker, basically. All right, let's.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that like the end of the tail end of the fight being more important.
Or after Team A secures a kill, then he has more room to like push on them basically, and that extra second where he does more damage. That means one less punch. That means he can go back into blocking quicker or secure a kill quicker. Basically. But yeah, let's move on into Reinhardt here, our favorite. Not even sarcastic. Love this guy. All right. Maximum health for barrier field is increased from 1400 to 1600. Barrier regen rate increased from 140 to 160. And charge, the impact damage on the wall, is increased from 275 to 300. So that finally he's going to be able to secure kills again on most characters from charging him. If he lands that charge, rewarding him to actually charge in. And then Barrier is getting a big buff, it seems like 200 HP, and regenerate. So, those Reinhardts that are just deep, those LH Cloudies just in the back lines, charging about like that missing train conductor, just chugging through. You forget about, they might be causing trouble with this. Let's see what the dev notes are, and then Nick, I'll get what your take is.
Shaking my head about.
Yeah. One of the core design goals for Reinhardt is to be the hero that shields his team. Shields up. In the past, we've reduced the barrier health significantly in order to improve other offensive aspects of his kit. Also to fit into the Overwatch transition from 1 to 2, that double shield meta that was really annoying, that nobody liked, just shooting shields. All right. But here they want to bring it. They try to bring him into a range sort of character, like, you were saying how Malga is. Malga can just shoot you from across the map and up close. Reinhardt just sits there and looks at you from across the map. So they still want to avoid how barriers feel mandatory and making them feel mandatory, and keep tank diversity healthy. But they are looking at a way to make Reinhardt more relevant in this patch, in the tank meta in general. All right. So what are your thoughts here there, Nicholas?
All right. So if we were to coach low level players who are playing Reinhardt, what would be the first thing that we have to beat the fuck into their skull?
Use cover.
Please stop hitting the fucking charge. Please stop hitting your charge button. Okay.
I don't know, man.
You are punished more often than you are rewarded.
Use cover.
Yeah, I mean, use cover is like a general rule for any person.
Yeah, man.
But if they're playing Reinhardt specifically, a new player, they have, how many buttons do they have? Okay. They swing it. They shoot the one thing, they hold up their shield, and they charge. All of those things have cooldown. So if they're not holding their their shield up, they're charging. These are like low-level antics that we all know exist if we have a low-level friend.
Man, the one asterisk I want to put on that, I think the cover thing is more important, because if they're charging into an open street, they're going to be shot at. If they're just holding the shield up, walking down the middle of the road, they're going to get shot at. So like using cover for the charge, using cover for the shield, I think is the first thing I would teach them and push on. But I understand what you're saying, because you get that itchy trigger finger with Reinhardt. You want to get in there, you want to just swing that big hammer. But like that's, I think, where the initial skill comes in. How to close the gap, and how do you learn how to not rely on your team to do that? Because a lot of times everybody just wants you to be the big rectangle man, and they don't do anything.
True, but because of power creep, right? That's a pretty unfair statement for people who want to play Reinhardt, right? And like Roadhog himself, like he's gonna try to get to the people, like these two guys, because I played these guys specifically. Like we could add somebody else in if you have more stuff, right?
Let's go. Yeah.
But without his charge, he can't really He can't really move without having his shield up or being like going behind cover and moving,
he has
right?
a hard time cover, and that's why Lucio pairs really well with him, and Lucio becomes a must pick, or Reinhardt needs Lucio. Otherwise, you use the shield. That's also why King's Row is a great map for him, because you can leapfrog from the gate, the bus, to the gate, to the statue, to behind the car, and then like wait for shield regen. Like, you don't have to do that in charge, and you can use the shield to like ferry everybody with you, but that requires team coordination. That requires people knowing what they're doing, and you're not going to get that in quick play and comp as much until you get to higher levels and higher skills.
Yeah, like, I mean, while I totally agree, I just like, I've said it before. Like, I think the charge move needs to be reworked instead of being tuned. Like, it's not a good low level experience, and it's probably not even a good high level experience. You know, so.
Yeah, that's a whole can
like overall.
That's a whole can of worms too when you start talking about. It's not that I disagree with that, but then I think, okay, what do you want to do? Is like, oh, let's give him a Malga thing. Maybe just give him damage reduction while he's charging, so it becomes a safer option. But you know that,
let him break out of CC
with
like
charge,
if he's CC'd in any way with charge. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Like, make him just go bleh, and he just runs at people if he gets CC'd, right? Like, he's pretty much like a World of Warcraft warrior for the most part.
He's the most traditional tank.
Like, kind of, but not. Yeah. So, like, give him something that adds to, like, his flavor, right? He's a shield tank that's kind of, like, immobile already. So, like, make it harder for you to CC him so he can still, like, do the fight or something along those lines.
Just on that note, it doesn't really say it here, but his passive specifically, I think he has a passive ability where he reduced CC. So tanks have reduced CC, and we'll see some of that come up in a second when we talk about some other characters.
No, I just mean him specifically.
But I think Reinhardt specifically as well. I think it's called Steadfast, and I think he originally wasn't booped as far before all the tanks got that, and I think there's something else about it. So I think that's part of it, and maybe it happens during charge, maybe it happens during shield being held only. I think maybe that's an adjustment they make, but that's definitely things to look at, because you know his big deficit is how does he close the gap so he can swing the hammer, and how does he do that with his team? How does he do that against the other team, and like getting creative and knowing how to like cross those barriers. There was a clip about 2 months ago that LH Cloudy was trying to move in on a map on a point. I think it was the flashpoint map, the first point on the one flashpoint. And basically, Baptiste got his ult in the first fight, dropped it as he walked in. Shield instantly died. Character instantly died. There's nothing anybody could do in a matter of a second. It was during a global. He got globaled by like 4 people basically because of that ultimate. And like, that's just the Reinhardt experience. And like, yeah, but yeah, it's all,
I mean,
yeah,
it is what it is. It is what it is. Like, it's never really, like, there have been times where I'm like, oh man, this shield feels too beefy, right?
For sure.
There have been times like that, but like on a regular amount of like my average experience when it comes to Reinhardt, is like, damn, this shield just got blown the fuck up, dude. I'm gonna sit here behind this wall for a little bit, and then like you're sitting there. All right, guys, let's go. No, it's gone already.
I think.
All right, hold on. Let me crouch. Like,
I think honestly, in my hot take is going to be specifically on Reinhardt here. Reinhardt's going to be the pick. He's going to be meta after this patch. The shield health is a big deal. I think the regen is just going to allow him to get back into the fight with that tool a little bit more. The charge damage, I think it's a good thing, but like he's been this quiet pick for a little bit. And I think the other thing is that the armor difference, you know, he's not going to just be annoyed by the tracers as much. That 10, it's not really going to make a difference. The 5 initially didn't really make a difference for Tracer. It applies the DPS passive onto him, but that armor is going to be a lot more tasty for somebody like Reinhardt, and I think he's going to be a meta pick in this patch. You know?
I mean, I can see it. 200 is a lot. Like, I don't disagree though. Like, 200 is a lot. The regen of just being an extra 20 per second, you know, that's literally 100 every 5, right?
Yeah,
like just additional. So like that's kind of crazy. Like 100 health per 5. Like, we played WoW. That's crazy. Like, it's like, that's real crazy. They had a trinket like that broke the game for a minute. But you know, I like, again, like that charge is pretty pretty lackluster. And I would like to see like more of like the data of like how much he's throwing out, like the I don't know what the hell the name of the thing is called. Right? Yeah, the fire strikes, right? Yeah. Like the fire strikes in charge, like how much do they impact overall games? And like I know they impact overall experience, right? So like it's a really good high when you hit a charge and kill somebody for a lot of players, right? I understand that. And it's a really low for the whole fucking team, though.
But you know what's interesting?
When it doesn't.
When you have that Ryan who just charges off into Narnia, absolutely feels bad.
Damn, he's off the map.
And then he complains about, where's the follow-up? Where's the healing? Anyway.
I got no heals.
It's just as bad as that Genji on the other side of the wall from the Ana. But it seems like, too, like thinking about it, they're trying to change the Malga charge a little bit more into this, and then this charge into that a little bit. But like, it's not quite, because, you know, you can stop it whenever you have the shield. Then this is definitely more defensive, though it has that kill potential, that one-shot kill potential where Malga's didn't. Otherwise, what I wanted to kind of add on here is, what was the thing I was just thinking of? Damn. I'm sorry. What were you just saying about the charge and the shield health? I can't remember what I was thinking about. I lost track of what I was cooking.
So I said the shield health is 100 per 5, and it's really great. We know exactly how impactful 100 health per 5 is. It's huge, right? And then the wall charge has the really really high, and then the really really low for the whole team. Like, all right, we don't really share the experience of the high of the charge. Like, oh man, our Reinhardt got a charge. Our experience is, thank God our Reinhardt hit a charge. Because if he did not hit that charge, we were all leaving here right now. Like, you know? So like that's why I think like little things like that, like the charge can just be changed overall. And I hate seeing changes like this. Like, it does more damage.
So I think that was just to reward the Reinhardt and reward the team, you know, kind of thing. He's more likely to secure the kill if he lands it, you know, risk reward kind of thing. That make those choices, make the bad ones feel worse. But you know, hey, it's a skill issue. Then what I was going to add into is like, the charge is kind of like, it could be like a Kobe, right? From downtown, a surprise charge, an out of position punishment kind of thing, right? To close the gap and just start swinging on people, a rush down tactic. There's a lot of variety with that, but like realistically too, charge is not your main staple. Even though some Ryans are definitely more excuse me, sorry. Whereas some Ryans are more charge heavy, but like, also, like you mentioned the Fire Strike, and I remember what I was going to say about that. Fire Strike it's a long range ability, but it's not a long range ability, if you know what I mean, right? They haven't changed the damage where it doesn't one-shot kill through window anymore. If you imagine if somebody's like a widow distance away from you and you hit them from afar, you can't follow up on that. You hit one, congratulations. You got to hit 2 in a row. You're going to go boom, boom. It's so unlikely. It's so... Fire Strike is...
It's for ult econ, right?
It's ult econ. It's so you're kind of doing something, you're kind of poking, but really it's to secure a kill in close proximity. You do the swing, the animation cancel when it hits halfway through your screen to Fire Strike, and then it's just like boom, like swing, strike, swing, and like it just becomes a faster sort of kill. It's a better kill secure and burst damage. So honestly, it's more of a close-up ability than it is a far-away ability.
That's like another thing, dude. Fire Strike is supposed to be the third attack in swinging your mace. It's horseshit that's an additional move. I'll be completely honest. It should be whack, Fire Strike. Like additional just whack, Fire Strike. Or after 2.
It took me a second.
Whack, Fire Strike.
It took me a second to understand where you're going from. You're talking about like it should be like a fighting combo or like an action RPG combo where it's like swing, swing, strike.
So, like, basically, you get a buff, just like in a bunch of other games, right? First swing adds 1, and then second swing adds 2. At 2 stacks of the Fire Strike, you do a Fire Strike automatically.
It's an interesting...
So as soon as you whap, Fire Strike, and then give him another ability, because, like, he should be brawling unless he has his shield up. And Fire Strike is, like, as you said, it's like to secure kills, not really to brawl. Dash is not for brawling. Right? Like, so it's basically he drops a shield and he swings his hammer.
Yeah. And that's why he falls behind on like a lot of the more modern characters and tanks, like even like Sigma. You know, Sigma can literally do everything at all times. Yeah. But I think
Sigma's great. I love that character.
He's super stable when it comes to being a tank, and he generally gets like the least amount of attention, but he's so consistent. But anyway, let's move on into the other tanks here, because we could probably talk about Reinhardt all day, because I think most of the community could. It's such a loved character. But moving into an unloved character, Roadhog, you either love him or hate him, and if you love him, you're probably playing him. Pigpen,
True.
area. This is his new trap ability. Area damage after activating is increased from 30 to 45. The recovery time reduced from 0.55 to 0.4. I believe that's the knock-up it does to people who get trapped in it. So people have a little bit more control a little bit sooner. And then the cooldown begins as soon as you throw it, and not after a second or two. The dev comments here, the Pigpen ability wasn't very useful outside of the chain hook combo. Surprise, surprise. So they're trying to increase the potency so that they would use it outside of that combo. I still think it's too valuable to not use it in that combo. If you could secure a single kill with that trap, or I don't know, why are you going to use it for anything else? But it seems that if they're going to just like make the cooldown shorter or like make it more usable, they're just going to have him place it down wherever so that he can just stage the combo whenever, however, kind of thing, or just throw another trap before somebody comes in, kind of thing. Do you play any? Yeah. Are you playing any Roadhog or not?
I'm playing Roadhog. I do enjoy Roadhog. I don't like where he is most of the time whenever I play him, and that's just because I think he's another champion where I think his kit is more harmful to his character than anything else. The hook is cool, but the hook really should be in all honesty, the hook should be on a support character. It shouldn't be on a tank.
Well, I mean, in a sense, the hook is on Lifeweaver with the life grip, but it's an untargeted. You just have to you target it slightly, but it's more of a skill shot for Hog. I would like to see the Hog hook just kind of keep somebody in place. So he could still fire his gun maybe during that, but you keep it in place and you give him that little sweet spot, kind of dink that he used to have. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation. They already done a rework. It is a very frustrating character to play against, and when the meta gets to a Roadhog meta, nobody's happy. Moving into Sigma, which is kind of the opposite, where people are generally pretty happy when they don't mind if it's a Sigma meta, though we don't really see anybody saying Sigma's their main. Let's see what they're doing here. Accretion, the big rock move. Impact damage increased from 40 to 80, 120 damage total. Dev comment is Sigma is a tank that does not currently have any issue with survivability because his abilities are so freaking good and he's able to cycle them really well. They are increasing the damage of Accretion to bring back more of a threat that he poses and increase the satisfaction of landing it. All right. That's pretty straightforward. Any sort of comments, unless we want to move on to Winston?
No, I mean, he's again. I love this champion. I agree. His kit is phenomenal. He's very well designed. Again, which is why I said watch out for Sigma too. The rock itself is awesome, but it's not. It's really a signature move for him, right? He throws a huge rock.
Yeah,
that's one of his huge, really big, impactful things when you think about Sigma, right? Is the gravity thing, throwing a rock or lifting and throwing people down, right? He's probably too strong to really change it. But he probably also needs a little change to that too.
Well,
because it's
I was gonna say, I think
which is why they're changing it here.
I think you bring up a good point because I think this damage change makes his one-shot combo come back. So if he lands that rock and he throws his just orbs bump bump, I think that maybe not actually with the new health pool numbers, but that'd be interesting to see. 120 and then maybe another 60 make that 240. You might just barely get away. He might take out a tracer, which is kind of what you want. That might be a fair sort of thing, but yeah, it'll be cool to see the math magicians take on the numbers for him and see if that brings back the one-hit combo. Moving into Winston and see what's going on with him. All right. Tesla cannon. The secondary fire charge time is reduced from 1 second to 0.85. It's a very slight reduction, but I think it's going to be more about feel because Winston has been one of the top performers, biggest played. Okay. Primal Rage, they're increasing the health from 500 to 700. That one might feel bad and look bad, but I don't think it's really going to make a difference because everyone knows to shoot the monkey as he's jumping on you. Maybe tell somebody in the gold games I'm in sometimes, but yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. All right. Dev comments. Winston is what's up?
No, I was just like, we also still want Primal Rage Winston to be killable, so we increase this health.
Yeah, that's a sentence that doesn't really make a lot of sense, but
it's been messing with me. Even the whole when you did Wednesday, you've been speaking, and I like lasered in on the increase, and I was like, "Oh, what's their excuse? Let me read while he's speaking." And then, sick Blizzard, nice man. Like, nice. Let's move on.
All right, so let me read the dev comments for everybody here. Winston is the top performing tanks at the moment, though we consider how satisfying the individual abilities within his kit are. The Tesla cannon secondary fire felt underwhelming for how long it took to charge, so that explains why they're making it quicker. They also want Primal Rage mode Winston to be killable, but adding some health so it help avoid some of the extreme situations where it could happen too quickly. Okay, so I think that mellows it out a little bit. Yeah, they want him to be killable, but I think really the thing that they're saying is that there's some times where he just gets deleted, and yeah, that's there to help mellow that out.
I mean, he's super susceptible to literally like this. Again, burst. It's a PvP game, right? So CC and burst matter, right? And like could you imagine? He gets CC'd pretty easily. Like when he jumps in, he needs to make it quick, otherwise he's gonna get hit with something.
Winston's definitely a tank about not so much deception, but opportunity and like just kind of capitalizing on positioning and timing and coordination. If you have like a Tracer or a Sombra to go in on it, but yeah, I think you're right. He's either I don't want to say he's either feast or famine, but like the really good Winstons really know how to make it happen, and there are some counters that some players and some champions that do counter it, but. Yeah, he's been in a good spot, and I don't think this is like that big of a deal, but I think it's just like enough to like, okay, he's a threat. Keep an eye on him.
Yeah, he's had a good run for Overwatch too, right? As soon as we dropped a tank, the tanks that had mobility and stuff like that have done like a little bit better because they, even if they get targeted, they still have the opportunity to possibly get out, unlike some of the other guys we've spoken about.
Yeah, right. And it was interesting because Alec Dawson did an AMA recently, did an interview with Spylo, and they were talking about how the different regions have different play rates, pick rates, win rates for each of the characters. And like Winston is like a must pick in the Pacific region. Same with Anna. Like it's insane how much it's played because of like that sentiment of culture over there. Where, high skill dive is like high flying, want to nail all the stuff, etc. So I think that plays a part into those things as well. All right, moving into Wrecking Ball. Quad cannons, automatic reload time while transformed, so in ball mode, is going from 2 seconds down to 1.6 seconds. Adaptive shields, the allied overhealth transfer ratio is increased by 50%. Use up to 50 overhealth per target to grant allies up to 75 HP. I'm not entirely sure what that means. I know when you transfer the health, it's basically saying that it's going to transfer more, but I'm not sure what those numbers ultimately mean. And I think it's a cool feature in that rework they had for Wrecking Ball, but I don't think it really was what Wrecking Ball needed, because Wrecking Ball is that character that as soon as Wrecking Ball comes out, the other team picks 4 counters, and then your team doesn't do anything about it or can't counter that counter the same way. It'd
be a cool ability if it was Overwatch 1.
That's for sure. And like having that second tank, Wrecking Ball can kind of go off and then come back kind of stuff. But yeah, the dev comment here, Wrecking Ball has excellent mobility and survivability. It is insane how much survivability he has, but he gets turned on and countered real quick. Anyway, and he'll now be more efficient in transferring some of that survivability to his teammates. Maybe that's the play here. They want to just have him move his shields into anybody else who's diving in with him, or if he's returning.
So how do you do it?
So you slam, And then when you're around people,
and then it puts the shield.
You put your shield on for how many people. You have an ability called adaptive shields, and then when you put the shield on, it's based on how many people are around you. So if you have 4 bad guys, you get 4 times as much shield. So you can effectively have like something like 1200 HP or something like that. Like it's a insane amount, but that's where like he's supposed to go in. He's supposed to be big. And the change that they're talking about here is that if you have teammates by you, you activate adaptive shields again, and then it gives it to anybody around you. And this says it up to 75 shields per target that's around you. So friendly units you'll give them your shield basically.
That's a bad ability for low ranked players.
Yeah.
Like that overall, that ability just sucks for a tank. Like anybody go below, that's kind of like a crappy.
It kind of sucks for
crappy. Like,
it really sucks for a tank that is, I don't want to say they're solo, but like Winston,
high flying.
It's high flying, but like Doom can move around and like duck behind walls, and that's where his effectiveness is. He's in, he's out, he punches, he slams, he's back, he's forth, kind of thing. Wrecking Ball goes in, rolls through, slams down, and like, okay, I'm not saying that's the part that needs to change, but like he has a little bit of a disadvantage compared to a Doom or like a Winston, but like what makes up for that is that he doesn't have a critical headshot when he's rolling around, when he's inside the ball. So like you can't crit him, but he's doing the thing and he's got a large health pool to do that. But like that's where then the solution is run a Sombra, run Doom, run a Hog kind of thing. Run Cass, you throw Hinder on them. So like you just have the team basically pick 4 counters, and then like Wrecking Ball goes from being unstoppable running the field into just dead instantly.
Yeah, this whole game needs a rework sometimes. Like if I think too hard on this, I'm like, why does Lucio have a speed increase and why doesn't Wrecking Ball have a speed increase?
Like a team speed increase? Yeah.
Yeah, why isn't the Wrecking Ball just leading? Why isn't he just Miley Cyrusing our whole team into the enemy base? Okay? Like just in general. Right?
Well, here's the thing. What about that, going back to Ryan, that like, let me cook here for a second. What if Ryan's charge gave that utility speed boost? Because what is it? Junker Queen has commanding shout. It increases movement speed on that for people as well. Ryan could do it. Wrecking Ball could do it. Not to say we need to like give everybody speed boost, but like that could be an interesting thing to play with and see what kind of variations you make and like where it works, where it doesn't.
Yeah, no, I mean like there's a lot of things, and like I would say, as far as reworks are concerned, they should have happened in between Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2.
Yeah, that's a whole
just
big
like in my personal opinion.
That's a whole other big
it's pretty. Because I personally do. I think they're probably taking abilities from like champions that are in development or scrapped that they don't want to work on anymore, and just trying to give them to like Wrecking Ball, like that allied overhealth transfer.
Yeah, I think they're just
so
looking
stupid,
for something
bro.
to do, and like with him, because that rework, the grapple thing was cool. Now with grapple, they did this like last season or 2 seasons ago. You grapple into the wall. You used to just swing around back and forth. Now you can press jump and you can retract and like basically go up. It's slower than that, but it allows you to get into some cool positions. It has a reduced cooldown for the grapple usage. I think 1 second versus 6 seconds. That was a cool change. Part of it, like a quality of life change, allowed a higher skill ceiling. But the adaptive shield one, I think, is like a minor thing for your team, a minor utility for a tank that has a hard time playing with their team, that doesn't really want to play with their team, that wants to be like knocking the other team out of position, disrupting them kind of stuff. So it'd be interesting if adaptive shield was like a pulse where you put the shield up on you, but if you time it properly, it's like that sound box from Mario Kart that disrupts the blue shell. You time it well and it's like it's perfect, right?
All right, so just a quick thought, real quick, right? Because like it seems like it will be pretty effective for what they were going for higher ranks, right?
Yeah, coordinated plays and dives, yeah.
Yeah, so like what's the overall? I don't know the numbers, but like what's Genji's health at?
I think it's 225.
What does Genji say?
250, 225.
So like, all right,
yeah.
So like, That's where I would see like this being like pretty nice.
Excuse me.
So it's use up to 50 health per target to grant allies up to 75, right? So if you get, let's say there's 4 people, right, and you get 50, that's 200, right? So you sacrifice 200 and you give Genji 300 health.
You give him 75 and he has an effective HP of 300.
Is it just, it's not 75 per 50?
It's 75 per 50, so a teammate A, B, C, and D each get 75 health, and you subtract 50 for each of those. So you get minus 200, and they get 75 each, and it makes it an effective HP. So you can go up to 300 maximum for like a short duration, or if I'm at 100, it bumps you up to a 175. So it does, in that way, it does try to make him more of a coordinated dive thing, but why would I pick Wrecking Ball over Doomfist? Why would I pick Wrecking Ball over Winston, right? Like that's the next
cheese
question
that I was explaining. But if you can't do that, then like that ability is so much worse than what it initially is. Like if you can't give 300 health to one target, that ability is dog shit. Like 100%. Giving 50, like 275 versus 225.
But giving somebody like straight up 300 health, just like on top of
there's no secondary tank,
but on top of whatever you have, man, like that's pretty broken too, because then you can just hard focus that Genji on Blade, and maybe that's a new combo.
Bro,
but like
he's got to jump in. He's got to jump in the 4 to 5 people.
But what you're
jump out, hit the Genji with the ability, and let the Genji go ham with an extra 300 health. It's a lot to do something really stupid. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Like 500 HP, giving them an extra 300 HP to like a max of 500 effective HP is super ridiculous sounding. A Genji walking around with 500 with Blade, with healers, that's kind of nuts, man.
Well, I agree with you, okay? But again, like, just change the numbers. Like, if the numbers are the only thing you have, like, I think it's just a situation of like, you should be able to target one singular person and give them all of the buff.
Interesting.
You know? If you're just giving somebody 50 while you're, I dove in with you, and instead of targeting me, they're targeting the other DPS that dove in with me or something like that, right? So, like, if I'm just giving that person 50 health, does 50 health really make that much of a difference coming from the tank?
But I think that's
that I had to stop doing my job.
But Nick, I think that's why
to be a healer.
I think that's what they're changing is here. It was 50. That was the thing, and kind of like talking this through. Now you only subtract 50 from Wrecking Ball, but then you're giving that target 75, and it caps at 75. Yeah. So if Genji's 225 HP, that makes him in 300 HP effective health. So like it puts him to 300 total. So you're kind of doing that. Maybe that's more broken. Maybe that number is just like now he's a must pick. Maybe that's the reason why you pick a Wrecking Ball. Because now you're basically, it's free real estate. You're giving them an extra 25 health from that you didn't have to spend on. But yeah, I think it'd be kind of ridiculous if you all in all your extra surplus shields into one person.
Yeah, I mean, like, for all of that, like, yeah, again, like, I do think 300 would be absolutely crazy. But I think giving 75 to everybody in a group would be awesome. But his kit does not allow you to play that super engaged, get in their face kind of style and be rewarded for that.
Yeah.
And then come back and sit in a group and then also, hey guys, I gave you each 75 health. What are we doing?
The team comp would really need to be high mobility, high dive, and then coordinate everybody all in. And even then, one or two of the healers are not going to go in and get that. And it'd be hard for them because you don't want them in a fight like that. Maybe they just want Wrecking Ball to be a brawl character in that way. He just kind of comes at you face forward and then gives his team that. So he soaks all the stuff and then everyone else does all the thing. But then it just feels like another Reinhardt where you're Rectangle Man sitting there taking it.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know, man.
You got to bring somebody back on board, bro. Somebody left. We need him back.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on as we kind of go into, because we have one more tank to talk about, and then we got a few other characters to talk about. I want to push through the other characters quick. But Zarya,
that's fine. I only care about tanks.
particle barrier health is increased from 200 to 225, so the barriers are going to be stronger, and the duration that they last naturally are going to be longer, 2 to 2.5. The dev comment: increasing the health on these barriers also means the total energy Zarya can gain per barrier is increased. So this is a boost to both offensive and defensive capacities. I think that's pretty good, but Zarya is another one that like she'll just become meta if she's doing more damage, because damage is greater than survivability a lot of times. But maybe this is a different form of high flying here, and we'll kind of see that. Any thoughts before I quickly run through all the other stuff?
I don't play this character at all.
Yeah, I'm
going to be completely honest. Like in Overwatch 1, I hated it. Overwatch 2, I'm not doing it.
She is a character that heavily relies on barriers, and if people are counting, there's 2, you're done. You're just cooked. You're done. Yep. But okay, moving into damage roll passive, which is a pretty big deal. Now is only half as effective against tank heroes. It's 10% healing reduction, mortal strike basically, rather than the 20% that it was previously. And the comment here is pretty much that with tanks being the front line and being the only big target to hit, they're more likely to get hit, and they would always have the DPS passive on them, and they would that would mean they're more reliant on their healers to keep them up and allow them or get them to do the thing. Reinhardt to just close the gap, he wouldn't be able to. It was a lot harder. So this hopefully will help change that with that healing reduction, but who knows? We'll see how much it changes. Bob now gets the tank roll passive. Cass's fall off range is getting changed to shorter. They felt he's too all around good, but they want to maintain his strong hit scan mid close range kind of capacity. Pharah's been a nuisance in the meta. We've been seeing pick rates skyrocket, and Pharah's everywhere. People are using them all over the place. So the big change here is that they're removing the damage done to concussive blast, the knockback, the size of the knockback is getting bigger, and the amount you're getting knocked back is increased, which I think the dev comment basically says they're reverting it back to the pre-rework. It was too easy to secure a kill when it was doing damage, concussive blast, because it felt too easy just to shoot a concussive blast, and people couldn't react to it and do anything about it. So they're reverting it back to the pre-rework version here. Ana Sleep Dart is getting a nerf against tanks. Rather than sleeping them for 3.5 seconds, it's going to only sleep them for 3 seconds. Alari's Pylon allies are not going to see the destroyed UI when it breaks, which I think was just like a little thing, not the kill screen, but maybe it is. I'm not entirely sure what that means when it comes to UI, if it's like a pop-up on the screen or if it's the actual kill what is it? List, camp rundown. And then last here is Zen's ultimate cost decreased by 10%, which is also interesting because Zen's probably going to be played a lot more against all these tanky tanks and their tankiness. So that was kind of a quick push rundown on that. Nick, any final thoughts before we move on? Because I do think this is going to have huge implications for the EWC, the Esports World Cup, with Overwatch coming into play. It's going to change metas and how strategies are being formed, and they only have about a week and a half, 2 weeks to figure that out.
That nerf did nothing to Ana.
Absolutely, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Like, Jesus Christ, the most limp, like wet noodle nerf I've ever seen.
I think it's just to bring it in line. I think it's just to bring it in line to like just some other stuff and just kind of be less of a feel bad for tanks.
Personally, I think like if you put yourself in a position like if Reinhardt gets noodled with the with the needle, then like whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like Malgi, you jumped in and you got needled. Now you got slept. Does that feel like poor play pattern? Maybe you shouldn't have ran in so hard, bro.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it comes down to the counterplay. It comes down to counterplay ability, etc. But this is all huge. I think we're going to probably see a sleeper Rhine meta for EWC. I think we might see an interesting dive with Wrecking Ball if it is sort of that 25 points makes that difference. We see an extreme dive, but I think we're going to probably stay the course. Sigma's a really safe call. I think Malga is going to be little bit interesting, but a lot's going to happen. And on that, since we are talking about EWC, I want to just give you guys, as we wrap up the EWC segment, Esports World Cup,